My name is Amina, and this is the story of how my on-site landlord tried to make my life miserable and how I quietly turned everything back on her. It's a story about patience, documentation, and a little bit of poetic revenge. When I first moved into that duplex, I thought I'd found a peaceful place to live. It was on a quiet street with old trees, and the rent was fair. The owner, a polite older man, seemed honest and kind. He handled the paperwork himself, met me once to show the place, and told me that if I needed anything, I could talk to his on-site manager, a woman named Giselle, who lived in the other half of the duplex. At first, I didn't think much about her. She smiled politely, helped me figure out where to put my trash bins, and told me the rules. No loud parties, no late-night guests. Nothing unusual, but within the first week, I could feel that something was off. She had this way of watching me from her window, pretending to be watering her plants while keeping an eye on who came and went. A few days after moving in, one of my friends helped me unload a small couch from my car. It took maybe 15 minutes. The next morning, I found a printed note taped to my door. It said, "All moving must be done between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please respect your neighbor's peace and quiet." It was signed, Management, Giselle. I remember staring at that note and thinking, management? You're not management. You're just another tenant. But I didn't want trouble, so I ignored it and went about my business. Over the next few months, it became clear that Giselle wasn't just strict. She was obsessed with control. She'd knock on my door if a package sat on my porch for more than a few hours. If my car was parked even slightly off the line, she'd leave another note. One time, she told my guests to move their car because it was blocking her view. I started keeping the notes in a folder, not because I planned to use them, but because something told me I might need them someday. Still, I tried to stay kind. I'd say hello, smile, even bring her cookies one time during the holidays. She took them with a blank expression and said, "Sugar gives me migraines." I went back inside and laughed under my breath. I found out later from another neighbor that Giselle got her apartment for half price because she handled on-site duties for the landlord. Things like collecting rent, calling maintenance, and reporting damages. Basically, she was the go-between. It gave her a little bit of power, and she used every ounce of it. Then I learned the real reason she had a problem with me. The neighbor told me Giselle had wanted her friend to move into my unit before I did, but the owner ran a credit check, and her friend failed it. The place went to me instead. So from day one, I was the enemy. Months passed. I stayed out of her way, paid my rent early, and kept everything spotless. But living next to her was like walking on eggshells. One wrong move, and I'd find a new note taped to my door. "Please do not use scented detergent," or "Do not water plants before 10 a.m. She was relentless. Then, about a month before my lease ended, the water heater started leaking. At first, it was just a few drops. Then, it turned into a steady drip. I placed towels under it, cleaned the area, and emailed Giselle. "Hi, Giselle. There seems to be a small leak from the water heater. Could you please have maintenance take a look?" No reply. A week later, I followed up. "Hey, just checking in. The leak's getting a little worse." Still nothing. A third time, I sent another email, attaching a photo this time. "Hi, I wanted to show you the leak I mentioned earlier. Please let me know when someone can come by." Finally, she responded, one short line. "I will look into it." And then, nothing again. That's when I realized she was setting me up. She was going to wait until I moved out, claim the leak was damage caused by me, and keep my security deposit. It was a small, classic landlord scam, but this time it was personal. I decided not to confront her. Instead, I kept documenting everything, every email, every message, every timestamp. I even recorded a short video showing the leak, the date, and my printed emails. Then, fate handed me the perfect opportunity. One afternoon, I was walking to my car and saw the owner, the actual property owner, standing by one of the other duplexes. He was an older man, friendly, and I walked up to say hello. I mentioned how much I'd appreciated living there and that I'd be moving out soon. Then I casually said, "If you have a few minutes, would you mind doing the move-out inspection with me?" He smiled. "Sure, I can do that." Perfect. When he came inside, I kept things polite and casual. We walked through the place, the kitchen, the bathroom, the living room. Everything was spotless. Then we got to the water heater closet. I opened the door, pointed to the towels on the floor, and explained the leak. I handed him a small folder, the one with all the emails printed out and dated. He looked through them, flipping each page, nodding slowly. "You sent all these?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "I never heard back." He sighed. "Well, that's not good. But you clearly tried to report it." He looked around one last time, then said, "Everything looks fine. You'll get your full security deposit back." I smiled. "Thank you. I really appreciate that." He nodded and wrote down a note on his clipboard. We shook hands, and that was that. Now, here's where the fun part begins. My final rent payment for the month was $750. My security deposit was $500. Normally, I'd pay the full $750 and wait for the landlord to refund the deposit later, but I saw an opportunity to make sure Giselle couldn't mess with anything. I said to the owner, "Since you're returning my $500 deposit, how about I just pay the remaining $250 and we call it even?" He paused, then smiled. "That's fine by me." He signed the paperwork. We both kept copies, and I handed him the $250 check right there. A few days later, Giselle came storming over, her face red with fury. "You didn't pay this month's rent?" she shouted. "You owe the full amount." I stayed calm. Actually, I already spoke with the owner. He inspected the property and agreed to return my deposit. So I paid the difference directly to him. Her mouth fell open. "He can't do that without going through me," she yelled. I shrugged. "He did. You can call him if you want." She froze. She didn't know what to say. For the first time, she wasn't the one in control. I closed the door slowly and just stood there, smiling. A few days later, the owner came back to fix the water heater himself. He told me casually that his daughter was moving into my unit after I left, and that Giselle would be moving out at the end of the month. Apparently, when the rent went back to full price without the on-site manager discount, she couldn't afford it anymore. So the woman who'd spent a whole year trying to make me miserable ended up having to pack up and leave. Meanwhile, I walked away with my deposit, my dignity, and my peace of mind. Sometimes revenge doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't need shouting, confrontation, or drama. Sometimes the quietest revenge is simply letting the truth and paperwork do all the talking. I still keep that folder with the emails, just as a reminder. It's my little trophy. Every time I see it, I think about how close she came to stealing from me and how easily it fell apart once I decided to stay calm and think strategically. People often say, "Don't get emotional, get even." But I learned that the best kind of even isn't about hurting someone back. It's about outsmarting them. It's about leaving them confused, speechless, and completely powerless without you ever raising your voice. That day, when she stood on my porch yelling about unpaid rent and I handed her the truth instead, that was the real victory. She expected chaos. What she got was composure. And that's something no one can fake. If you're ever stuck dealing with someone like that, a toxic landlord, a manipulative boss, a controlling neighbor, remember this: documentation beats drama. Always. Keep your cool, collect your evidence, and when the time is right, let your facts speak louder than any argument. In the end, Giselle moved out, The duplex went to someone new, and I found a better place closer to work. I don't think she ever realized how ridiculous she looked, trying to threaten someone who already had everything handled perfectly by the book. And honestly, I didn't need her to realize it. Watching her lose control of the very system she tried to use against me was enough. So, yes, I got my revenge, not through yelling or fighting, but through patience, intelligence, and a smile. And that, my friends, is how I bricked my landlord's power, without lifting a finger. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more powerful tales of justice, resilience, and real-life battles, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, and leave a comment below. Your support helps me bring more stories like this to life.